give a different return. My last trip I had premium economy flights coming back, but because I used my mileage to get those flights discounted, I wasn't able to claim for premium economy on my miles. I had to ring in and get basic economy flight miles. A lot of faffing about as well. And sometimes the mileage changes too, so you might see that an economy passenger is awarded 1 mile for every mile flown, because that might not actually be true either. Small print again. The amount you collect depends on the distance you fly, the cabin you fly in, the type of ticket you hold, and your executive club tier, for example, with BA. On flexible economy flights, you receive 1 BA mile per every mile flown. On a discounted economy fare, that could be 25% of the actual miles flown. So you do need to be careful. As I said, no such thing as a free lunch. Don't just assume you're going to get what you think you're going to get. So when you're booking your flight, you need to weigh up the pros and cons of increasing the cost of the ticket to get the extra miles you receive. If you have a trip in mind for your free tickets, check how many points each airline needs you to get for you to earn that free flight. You may find up to double the difference. However, also think about the actual costs of your flights as well. It may not be worth the extra in ticket prices to quickly earn the free flight you're after. Only a certain number of seats are available for free flights on any given flight as well. So if you're unable to cash in your miles to fly a particular route and date, check for alternative airports. For example, fly from Gatwick instead of Heathrow, land at Baltimore instead of Washington, and there's other bits airports around the world which are close to each other. There's 2 in Orlando, for example. You could also look at partner programs to see if another airline will allow you to use your miles with them. And if all else fails, demand, but in a polite way, to speak to a supervisor at the airline's booking centre, because they do have discretionary powers to give you the ticket. But if you're going to be really nasty and shouty and stuff, you've got no chance. Just be polite and just ask nicely, and it gets you a long way. You could also benefit from a new route and a connection. For example, Frankfurt Airport had a new route to China, so you may be able to use your miles for this flight after paying for a connection from London to Frankfurt. And you could get your free miles on that new route because they want people to try it and get the planes full. But do remember, this is very important, don't waste your points on a cheap flight, and do check for any expiry dates you have on your miles. It's also very important you be aware of any inactivity clauses in your scheme. Not all our airlines are the same. BA gives you 36 months, Qantas gives you 18 months. So you might have to keep ticking over, either through a credit card or booking flights, just to make sure you don't lose your miles. If you are unhappy with your return on your current scheme, you could look at converting them to a new one. There are websites such as InsideFlyer.com where you have a tool to show you how you can gain or lose by changing your miles and points from one scheme to another. You may not be able to change directly from one airline to another. For example, one I worked out a few years ago, 10,000 Virgin Atlantic flying clubs can be exchanged for Hilton H honours at a ratio 1-to-1. And then you can go from H honours to BA Executive Club at 10-to-1, giving you 1,000 miles. So you can, why would you want to do that? But you could convert 10,000 Virgin miles to 1,000 BA miles by going through a third party. Another option, if you're going to fall foul of the inactivity clause, is to donate your miles. And you can look at various charity websites, because quite a few have a scheme in place where you can give your miles to them. And this is the most important thing, apart from reading the small print and being polite when you're trying to badger somebody to get what you want. Don't dispose of any tickets or boarding cards until you've been credited with your miles. Just in case there's a problem, it's down to you to prove you did the flight. Even if the airline knows you did it, they don't have to prove it, you have to. So don't throw anything away until you see your balance increased. And there's various people who do blogs and websites as well that can help you with your air miles, so you can have a look there too. One that springs to mind is a website called Award Grabber. So you don't have to use your miles for flying, but why else would you want them? If you've got any experience of cashing in your air miles, how did it go? Was it easy? Which airline did you use? What tips do you have? Get that right, for others to follow your footsteps and getting these free flights. Please do share your experience at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. can follow me on Twitter at holiday_hut. So how do you get the best seat on the plane without having to pay for first class? Well, there's various ways, and it all takes a little bit of research and a little bit of planning. So before you book any flight, you need to check the seat pitch of the airlines that fly your route if comfort is important to you. Seat pitch is the measurement from one point of a seat to the same point on the seat behind. It's given like leg room, but it's seat pitch. So if you look at the beginning of the armrest on the seat in front, you measure from that to the beginning of the armrest of the seat behind, and that gives you the pitch. And you can check that on a website such as Airline Quality. Seat width is probably has more to comfort than leg room, especially if your bum's as big as mine. So ensure that you check that as well. So before booking, check the prices, or by all means check your prices, look for the cheap one. But check the seat pitch and the seat width to make sure that it's worth the discount to get the seat you're going to be getting. Because there's no point being uncomfortable for 4 or 5 hours, or maybe even 10 or 15 I've suffered in the past. And the difference between the airlines may be cheaper than paying for an upgrade on the cheaper flight. What I mean by that? Let's say, for example, that Thomson Fly is cheaper than a Thomas Cook flight, but the Thomson Fly seat pitch and width is smaller than the Thomas Cook. But if you go to Thomson Premium Economy to get bigger, it may actually be more expensive than going for economy in the Thomas Cook flight for the same comfort. That's what I mean by that. Hopefully you can follow that. Frequent flyer schemes can help as well. I've just mentioned, get you a free upgrade. So do sign up as many as you can to make these miles work for you. And it worked for me once. But again, as I said a few moments ago, if you use your miles to upgrade, you can't get miles back for that class of ticket you've just been on because you've used your miles. So the plan really is to get the best available seat in your class. And now that you can book your seats online with quite a few airlines, you no longer have to take part in the check-in lottery when it comes to getting the best available seat in your class. So the first thing you need to decide is which section of the plane you want to sit at, in your class that is. Don't say, right, I booked an economy ticket, I want to sit in first class. But you know what I mean. So if you're in economy, which most people do fly, do you want to sit at the front of economy, the middle, or the back? The backs might have extra leg room due to the shape of the aircraft. It narrows, so instead of having 3 seats together, it could be just 2. On Virgin, they call these honeymoon seats, and they are very convenient. Another possible bonus that the seats are normally filled from front to back at check-in, so if the flight isn't full, you may be lucky enough to have a row to yourself at the back. However, there is also a drawback sitting in the back of most planes, and that's the toilets. It's just handy if you need to use it, but the area around you can get busy, and also at the very back, the seats may not recline. And of course, you could be the last person to get fed. And also, it's been reported, although I've never experienced this myself, that the rear of some aircraft sway a little bit at the back. So if you're sensitive to air sickness, sitting at the back may make you feel more ill. And of course, because they fill planes from the back to the front, you're going to get the first choice of luggage over overhead storage. That's another advantage. If you are nervous about flying, then sitting near the wings may be the solution for you because there's less turbulence there. And at the front, it's also good for nervous flyers because there's less noise too because you're in front of the engines. And you'll be first off and at the front of immigration queue. And you'll probably be served first for meals as well. So there's lots of bonuses to being at the front. Although being last on, you may not end up with any overhead storage. And if the crew can't find any storage for your stuff, then it's going to have to be checked, and with all the pushchairs and stuff. So make sure you get a luggage tag for any luggage that has to be stored with the checked luggage last minute to make sure you know where it is and you can get it back. Legroom seats. If you're tall like me, then you need seats with extra legroom, and these are usually found at the exits, emergency exits, and behind the bulkheads. Seats behind the bulkheads may be free and can sometimes be bookable when checking in online, but also these seats are given to passengers with babies because the skycot latches on to the bulkhead, so it could also be noisy and smelly as well. Only people who are physically capable of assisting in an emergency should be given the exit seat, so these cannot be booked until checking in at the airport. And there also may be extra fees for this too, even though you're technically a member of staff. You can sometimes book these in advance, but you will be checked at check-in to make sure you look physically capable of assisting in any emergency landing, and you could have the seats taken away from you if you're obviously not capable of throwing people out of a door. There are several websites that can assist you in deciding which available seats are the best ones for you to sit at, such as Seat Guru and Seat Expert, and these may be muchly more useful than the plans of the seating arrangement given by the airline. The information that these seats provide include information such as where the power pack is for in-flight entertainment, and that means there's less foot room, where the galley is, so they've got a smell of the food, where the toilets are, frequent gathering of people and the smell that may disturb your sleep. And due to the online check-in and websites such as Seat Guru, you may need to check in as soon as possible, which opens around 24 hours before departure. Or if you can't check in online, get to the check-in as early as possible on the departure day to give you the best possible chance to get the seat you want. However, if you're flying in a no frills flight, then just lose your manners and push your way through all the hordes of passengers to get that seat that you deserve. And if you fancy a gamble, you know that possibly the flight's not going to be full, and if you're travelling alone, just book the centre seat of a row of 3. After all, couples don't want to be split, so you're unlikely to have a couple book seats either side of you, and with a bit of luck, you'll have all 3 seats to yourself because the flight's not full and you're not going to get couples. But it is a gamble, you never know. There is much more to researching and planning flights than what I've covered over the last 2 shows. If you go to johnguinn.me, click on the Ultimate Travel Planning Guide from the menu, go down the page, look for Chapter 5. There's all the stuff I have covered over the last 2 weeks and plenty other bits and pieces, including the Ultimate Upgrade Bluff, which I recommend nobody does. But if you're desperate and you fancy having a laugh, then check out the Ultimate Bluff to get an upgrade. But again, as I say on the webpage, I don't recommend you do it because it's very, very risky. I hope you found the information from Paul from the travel franchise interesting. Maybe you really want to start your travel business now. So do pay attention to the news websites I'll be sharing at my Facebook page. Check the industry. Make sure you're going to be happy doing that as a living. You can see loads of people, very happy people in travel events because it really is a good business to be in. And when you speak to your customers when they come back to see how they got on, and you feel how much you hear how much they enjoyed their trip, and it's all down to you, it's a great buzz. So do check out the travel franchise stuff. Do check out the travel news websites as well. And you never know, you might start your own business. If you do, drop me a line, facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. And I'll give your new business a shout out for the listeners as well. Anything you want covered in the world of travel, you can communicate to me. You can message me even at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. Let me know what you want to know more about and I'll get somebody on to talk about it. And I do hope you can join me next week on the Travel Show with John Guinn on ukhealthradio.com, where each week I'm checking it out before you check in.